G15, the box of keys all picked out. We have all of the screws out, which are accessible to underneath the keyboard, so you can just screw them out. Flip the keyboard over, pull the top off, like so. Being careful and lifting it up towards the front, so you can remove this cable, just standard like you'll find in most laptops. Literally, the latch comes up, then the cable can slip out. So that's that. Now it's the next stage of separating the grey from the black on the plastic top. Working on the plastic bit at the front, removing all the screws so it will separate the grey bit, which is what I want. So just going around and literally unscrewing each screw. Just going around, getting them all out, so we're actually able to successfully separate them without breaking anything. Now we're up to the process of literally separating all of this away from the plastic base itself, and then we shall soon be able to progress. A little flathead or an isosimo tool from iFixit or something similar. We have now separated the plastic bit, and the logo is also separate. Logitech. We have now successfully separated what we want from the keyboard. So now we have this part, the main plastic top itself for the G15 keyboard, and the base actual whole keyboard itself unit on the floor here with the cable. And now we can move on. A quick teardown shot, layer by layer. There we go. So we've got the main unit there, plastic there, logo, all the keys, all the screws. Up to the first layer of paint. You can see it's all nice and bright orange. It's just the first layer. I'm just going to keep adding layers on so you can still see some grey spots, but looking pretty nice. Couple of more layers so far. Still got a bit of uneven lines as I'm trying to get it all nice, but that's the colour orange it's turning out to be, which is pretty much going to be the same as the LEDs, so it's looking like pretty good paint. Hopefully it can stay nice and shiny. Got the plastic covers back on for the logo and stuff, but now it's time to put it back together. So, getting closer to the end. Next stage is clipping it all back in, which I've already done, including the logo. It doesn't matter, the logo can be done afterwards or something like that, because as you'll see underneath, it just gets screwed in again, and that's of course what I'm up to now. Is just literally going backwards and putting the first lot of screws in, which will hold in the bit that I just painted. Pretty much you can find the holes all back around again, or of course, you know, you can just retrace your steps if you remember. Making sure that all the clips are actually in for that plastic bit. I had to go over it a couple of times because it was still popping up in some areas, so I just made sure I clipped those in. And then yeah, so we go again. Again, still working backwards. Next part can be a little tricky for some people if you've never done it before. The one thing is plugging the actual connector back in, which will control everything else that's on the main keyboard up here, like buttons and so forth. Pretty much all I had to do is make sure it's still lifted, because you had to lift it when you pull it out so you don't break it. Lift it and put it in, and then literally close it down so it secures the cable in there without coming out. Another issue I also had to fix up, I'm not too sure when it happened, but the LED strip down there which makes the whole keyboard light up orange, like all the keys, was just not sitting in its correct spot, because you can see, if the camera will get in there, that it has little areas that it'll sit in, just so it sits flush and doesn't move. That was not where it's supposed to be, so I just popped it back in there. And now once again, I'm just putting it back together, so this bit will hold clip in, and then I'll have screws underneath it. I'll do it to fasten that all back, and then becomes the long process of putting every single key back in, and then testing it. And then yeah, it should be good. Now I'm currently done. Every key is back in place, every screw is back in place, and pretty much, yeah, the keyboard's all done now. A couple of other things, of course, when I had all of the keys apart, I individually washed them all, pretty much scrubbed all the insides of the actual board behind it, because of course, being a second-hand keyboard, it's all grotty with excess human slime from the previous owner. Only other issue with the keyboard, which you obviously won't have with yours, is this one does have a buggy light issue, which happened, of course, when I picked it up. So you can see the lights like flickering a little bit on and off. It doesn't really bother me. This was just a second-hand keyboard anyway, that I got it as a part of a deal with something else, and really have no intention of using anyway, but I just wanted to try my hands on a cool mod, and of course it's better doing it with something like this than like a brand new keyboard or something like that. For starter people, of course. But yeah, so I'll just go turn the lights off and I'll show you what it looks like at night. So as you can kind of see, it's all lit up orange, as it is. The whole idea, compared to a keyboard like this, where I showed you earlier, where it had just the strips of LEDs down the bottom which shine upwards onto all the keys, isn't really the best sort of thing, because as you can see, it sort of gets, well, you'd expect it to get darker as it gets towards the top, of course. But, you know, this keyboard was released I don't know how many years ago, compared to keyboards now, like I have for my main, which is a Ducky. You know, you can't really expect too much, but yeah, so orange keyboard, orange lights, orange paint job, looks alright. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed the only tutorial I could find on the internet for modifying a G15. So yeah.